Alright, so this is going to be What If Deku Had Accelerators Powers Part 4. So, with that being said, let's just roll the intro.
They took it to 10. Let me tell you how I come through with the 1-2, kicking shit like kung fu. Treat a bad bitch like she average. I'm a savage, little hoe, what you want do? I'm about cash if the raw fast. I'ma get that little nigga by any means.
Alright, so before we get to the actual What If, I would like to say that as of recording this, we've actually reached 500 subscribers. So that's a big milestone and I really appreciate that. So for the next couple of videos, I'll have a pinned comment asking for questions for the Q&A. And when I get enough questions, I'll make the video. And I'm trying to diversify my content a little bit on this channel. So on my last video or 2 videos ago, I asked if I should do reviews, and you guys, I put that poll up and the people who voted said yes, right? And I also got like other what ifs, like I did a JoJo what if and I did a Black Clover what if recently, so you can watch those too. So later on today I'm going to upload a review of the Shield Hero. It's not going to be really called a review, it's going to be my thoughts on Shield Hero, to give some insight because I have read the manga, so it's gonna be a little bit a review of both, kind of. So let's get into the actual what if. So last time I ended the part with Deku beating the Nomu using plasma, and I made him ask out Uraraka. I'm gonna change that a little bit because it's not within Deku's character, at least this version of him, because I made him more like Accelerator and not himself really. So I'm gonna change it a little bit because it doesn't make sense giving his character that he would do that. So he's still gonna ask her out, but he's not gonna be nervous about it, right? And I'm gonna make Deku more of a jerk in this one. So yeah. So we start off a little bit after the actual fight with the Nomu, and this is when Bakugo actually confronts Deku about what he just did, because in this version Bakugo's more hot-headed than he is in the actual anime. So Bakugo would go up to Deku and think, tell him like, I bet you think you're big stuff just because you killed some dumb creature. And Deku's like, oh, that thing? No, it didn't, it wasn't even like that tough to do. I don't know what you're talking about. And then Bakugo was like, why did you ask out that girl? For as long as I've known you, you've never been interested in that kind of stuff. So why start now? And Deku's like, I don't know. And this is when like Bakugo kind of realizes it, that Deku doesn't really like her. It's just that Deku's trying to kind of like experience romance, if that makes sense. So Bakugo like gets very angry at Deku and says, why are you even like giving her false hope? You know you don't really like her, so why are you doing this? And Deku's kind of silent for a moment, and he says, why does it matter to you? We're in high school now and I want to experiment. What's so bad about that? And Bakugo, he just walks away from that conversation because he's just super angry at what Deku does. So it's a little bit later, maybe like a few days later, after the attack on the USJ, and this is when Aizawa, they're in the classroom at this point, and Aizawa tells the students that there's going to be a sports festival coming up 1 week from now, and this is a great chance to actually show off your quirks, and it'll show how it'll show heroes your potential. And I forgot to mention this, but I don't think I've chosen someone to have one for all in this version. There was a lot of comments, and I think I'll give it to Kiroshima in this one. If I already gave it to someone, just please correct me in the comments. But I'm pretty sure I haven't chosen anyone for this what if yet. And the other, because I already did one for I gave it to Mario in One for All, or All for One, that what if. So I'm gonna change it up a bit in this one, since Kirishima was the second highest picked character to have it, and it makes sense. But we'll give it to him after the USJ, or not USJ, the sports festival. So Aizawa tells him that they go to lunch. It's as normal. Monoma is still there, harassing UA 1A, and that girl with the big hands, knocks him out as usual. And this is when Uraraka tells Deku that she can't go on that date because of the sports festival and she wants to train. Deku, he's not really disappointed because he didn't really expect anything, since he's kind of using Uraraka in a sense that he just wants to experience romance. It doesn't really have that much feeling for her. Like, he appreciates her as a friend, but I don't think he sees her at this point in a romantic light. I'm changing Deku from the last part, because given that his character is more like Accelerator, I don't think he'd fall in love that fast. So we get to the week when it's time to train, and I think Deku wouldn't really train because he'd just rely on his quirk more. I think the only thing he would do is maybe study up on some physics, and that's kind of it. So one day Deku's just walking around town, just strolling because he has nothing better to do, since all of his friends are like training. So what he does, he just walks around town and he sees this alleyway, and he sees these like guys picking on this like girl, right? And they're like threatening her. So he just cracks his neck and says, alright, looks like I gotta save her. So he walks down the alleyway and says, alright, what do we have here? And he says, you two, speak. And he points at the two guys. There's like three guys, harassing this girl. And Deku doesn't see it, but that girl is actually holding a knife behind her back just in case something happened. And those guys would be like, what are you talking about? Who are you? And Deku would be like, well, I guess you could say I'm the future #1 hero. And they would start laughing like, you? Because Deku doesn't look that physically strong in this one, and he has white hair and he looks really pale. So they're like, you? Don't make me laugh, right? Well, Deku wouldn't really care about them laughing, but he would just say, alright, just leave this girl alone and I won't have to do anything. And they're like, yeah, right. You don't know what this girl has done, so why are you sticking up for her? And I think this is when one of the guys would rush Deku. And this is when Deku would just reflect it back enough or he would reflect it with enough force to knock him on his feet. And and they would be like, oh, you're a teleporter. Oh, not a teleporter. You have telekinesis, right? The big weakness is that you can't get multiple targets. And they all try to rush him, and it doesn't work. They all get knocked over, and Deku would be like, well, my power isn't, or my quirk isn't telekinesis, it's vector control. And the thugs would be like, what does that mean? And Deku was like, I basically control physics, so yeah. I think after hearing this, the people that were harassing the girl would run away in fear, since hearing that would just, that's infinite possibilities with his quirk. And the person that was, the victim in this scenario would thank Deku, and this girl was actually Toga, right? And she'd be like, "What's your name?" And he'd be like, "Well, it's Izuku Midoriya." And I think in this one, she would have a slight crush, as she does in the anime, but mostly because of how his what he did, and not really because of how his quirk works. So I think Deku would just try to walk away and just continue his like normal walking route, but I think Toga would just kind of follow him, and he would turn around and be like, "Why are you following me?" And she would be like, "Well, I wanted to thank you for actually helping me. Not, where I came from, people wouldn't help me because they think I'm creepy or weird." And Deku would be like, "Why is that?" And then Toga would say, "It's because of my quirk. It's seen as villainous." And Deku's like, "Well, the quirk doesn't really make you a villain, it's how you act. It's pretty simple, actually." And Toga's like, "Oh yeah, but it still kind of hurts hearing that." And Deku was like, "Okay, what's your quirk then?" And I forgot the name of the quirk, but basically what it does is that when she consumes someone else's blood, she's actually able to transform into them. And this includes their voice. And the more blood she takes, the longer the transformation lasts, I believe. So Deku would be like, "Oh, that's pretty interesting, I guess. I don't really see it as a villain quirk, but I guess I could see how people can perceive it that way." And hearing this, I think Toga would be pretty excited, even though Deku doesn't really have that much enthusiasm when talking to her. So they would continue walking for quite a bit, and Deku would, I think, run into Uraraka at this point. I think Deku would be like in a kind of like a farmer's market district at this point after walking for a bit, and Uraraka would be there getting supplies for her training, and I think that it would be her who comes up to Deku instead of Deku going up to her, and she'd be like, oh hey, Midoriya, what are you doing here?" And he's like, "I don't know, just strolling." And this is when Uraraka would see the girl behind him, and she would ask like, "Oh, who is this?" And he'd be like, "Oh, this is just a girl I saved, and now she's following me." And Toga would be like, "Is this your girlfriend?" Because she saw how Uraraka kind of like her mannerism was when speaking about her. And Deku would be like, "Not really." And Uraraka's like, "Yeah, we never really dated, right? Since they canceled, and that, So I think Toga would take this chance to kind of cling onto Deku's arm, and she would be like, "So that means you're free," since she kind of she's very interested in Deku because of how his power works and because he saved her. So Uraraka would be jealous because of what's happening. She'd be like, she's like, "I don't think you should do that, even if he did save you." And then Deku would be like, "Yeah, you shouldn't." And he would try to get his arm away from her. And I think Toga would be kind of a little pouty, I guess. And then I think Deku would be like, he would check his watch and be like, "Well, it looks like I gotta go." Instead of walking, I think he would just use his like black wings to get, home faster. So it'd be Uraraka and Toga by themselves. And I think Toga would be like, so what's your relationship to, Midoriya? And Uraraka would be like, well, we're both students of UA, class 1A. And Toga would be surprised, like, oh, we were surprised that, Uraraka was there, but not really surprised that Deku was there, since Deku has a very powerful quirk. And there's like this awkward exchange between them, and they, say their goodbyes. And I think Uraraka would be kind of mad and jealous at Deku for having this girl around. So we get to the actual day of the sports festival, and they're all in that changing room, and Deku's just kind of sitting there, and everyone's having their like talks about how great the sports festival is going to be. And Bakugo would go up to Deku and says, I don't care about your quirk, but I'm going to beat you, right? It doesn't matter if you can reflect everything. I'm going to find a way to get past that. So what happens after this is, I think Todoroki would see what's his name, Deku, as a threat for he's like his biggest threat so far to becoming the number one hero. So I think he would say something kind of the opposite of what he did in the anime. Instead of saying that he's stronger than Deku, he would say that he's weaker, but it doesn't mean he's going to lose, if that makes sense. So everyone would walk out to the field, and then Deku would be the one who went up and did the speech. And then since he got the most points during the entry exam, and he basically was a big help during the USJ, I think he'd be the one who does the speech. And his speech goes kind of like, it's kind of insincere in a way. He's just telling the people what they want to hear, so he doesn't like have to be up there for a long time. He just says in an unenthusiastic voice, obviously, he'd be like, looks like we have a lot of promising students this year. Let's just have everyone do their best and see who comes up on top. And this is when he would just walk away, and the crowd would cheer, obviously, because it's exactly what they wanted to hear. And Bakugo would get angry at Deku and says, you didn't even try. Why did they even pick you? Right? And Deku or Midoriya would be like, it's because I'm a lot stronger. And this would like get Bakugo really mad, and he would kind of grind his teeth at this, after hearing that. Alright, so we get to the first kind of obstacle course, right? That's the first trial. So in this one, it's like really no contest on who wins. It's obviously Deku. He could get past all the people that are in the corridor or the little like gateway, because he could use his wings, and and the robots have no effect on him, because he could just either touch them or touch the ground around him, or even fling a rock at them to basically destroy him. And I think he'd be faster than Todoroki and Bakugo combined, since if he has enough force to reflect a nuclear blast, that means he has at least 2 times that force. And if he uses that, within his legs to kind of shoot forward, that would be easily enough speed to get past everything. And he wouldn't even need to touch the ground, so the bombs wouldn't go off, the landmines wouldn't go off. So in this one, I think it'd be Deku first, then Todoroki, and then Bakugo. So we get I think actually we can still keep going. So we get to the actual like cavalry battle. I think it'd be the same teams, I think. Or actually, yeah. But the reasons why they're the same team is that Deku doesn't really care. He knows he could protect it himself. So what happens is that Uraraka's on his team, and she kind of blushes, but Deku's kind of indifferent for her being on his team. And the other teams, they're all the same team. So Deku, again, it's kind of no contest because any people who went near him he would just reflect everything. It's kind of easy for him at this point because no one really knows how to like get past his like barrier. There are ways for normal people to do it, but I'll get into that in the next part. So I think I'll end it here. I'll have that pinned comment down below so you can ask questions, and I'll put a poll up on this video to see how you like the character in this one. So with that being said, this is the end of the video. So yeah,